Hey friends, welcome back to the Living Truth Podcast. This is your host, Michael Carey, and today I have my beautiful wife, Kristin, that I'm going to interview on our show.
Glad to be here.
So today we're going to be talking about the holidays, and when the holidays hurt, what are the first steps toward healing after betrayal? So Kristin, this is something that you lived yourself. The holidays can feel impossible when you're in betrayal trauma. So today I want to just ask you about your own early holiday experiences after betrayal and what women most need in those very first steps of survival.
It is literally a survival mode time. So two of my most brutal and most disorienting sexual betrayal trauma discoveries or disclosures happened just before the holidays. It was like my own personal 9/11. Like I felt like I was buried under the rubble of the Twin Towers with smoke and, plumes of fire. I did not know if I would make it out alive. I was very disoriented. I was confused. I was unable to sleep, eat. I was pregnant during the first one, and during the second one, I had a 6-month-old baby. And so I felt like I was in the most vulnerable phases of my life as a woman. And the betrayal felt even more vulnerable to me in those phases of my life. So the only thing that calmed my anxiety and gave me a remote sense of stability was walking. And so I did a lot of walking. I would be up all night, especially during the first discovery, could not sleep, so distressed, so many intrusive thoughts. And I remember realizing one morning when I was out doing my walk, as soon as it got light and it was safe for me to walk, I remember realizing I'm talking to myself like out loud. Oh my gosh, I have officially lost my mind. I must be crazy. And ladies, if you're listening to this and you've just discovered betrayal and you're thinking, I think I'm crazy. You're not crazy. You're traumatized. Betrayal is a huge blow to our sense of safety. It is a threat to our primary attachment relationship with our spouse. And even though, yes, I am a child of God, loved by God, accepted by God, by myself, I am in an attachment relationship with my spouse. And when that covenant is ruptured and there's a whole secret sexual life that's exposed, it is traumatizing. And so my first betrayal trauma discovery, I did not know a lot about sexual addiction. I did not understand why my husband at the time, and to be clear, this was not Michael. I was married previously. I didn't understand why he had done what he had done, and I didn't understand how deep the rabbit hole went. But I knew we couldn't go on our baby moon trip that we had planned the next month. We canceled that. I have no memory of Thanksgiving that year. I was just in survival mode. And because I didn't know a whole lot, I was very eager once I saw that he seemed repentant and truly sorry and started doing the things that the people in our lives told him he should do, like go to a group and find a mentor and go to therapy. Even though these were not specialized sources of help at the time, that didn't really exist. And this is in 2004. As soon as he started doing those things, I was very quick to want to reconcile and have our family be intact again. And so for our listeners, many of you have had previous discoveries and you've reconciled really quickly and then you feel ashamed. And what I want to say is you didn't know. And it's natural to want to reattach and reconnect with that primary attachment figure with your spouse. I do remember Christmas, that first discovery year, having a lot of hope, but also being terrified. It was just a very destabilizing and disorienting time to be going through the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first step, the top priority, if you will, is safety and stabilization.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
To establish that. And one of the things that I think that could be really confusing when you start to see some positive things from your spouse, to really know, if you're not just to feel safe, but to know you're safe, to know that you're moving in that direction. Safety and stabilization after sexual betrayal What does it mean for women
Yeah.
in those early days to really implement that?
So I like to divide it into two categories. There's a sense of internal safety and there's external safety. And both of these, nothing feels safe after betrayal, right? But to start to move in that direction, one aspect of external safety is like determining that your spouse is going to look like the threat. The acting out partner is going to look like the threat. The computer, the phone, whatever he used to act out, those things are all going to feel like a threat. And just know that that is normal because you're not sure exactly what his unwanted sexual behavior is rooted in. You don't know all the truth of what he has done. And that lack of information also can feel like a threat. So finding the truth by getting good therapeutic support, help from a professional coach, joining a recovery group, doing things like this early on so that you can start to learn what this issue is, where it comes from, and what you're going to need. Establishing boundaries where you need boundaries. Like if being around your husband puts you into a fight, flight, or freeze state and you can't sleep or function, then sleeping in a separate room is just a really practical, or asking him, better yet, ask him to sleep in another room so that you can start, your body can start to down regulate, to shift into parasympathetic rest and digest mode a little bit at a time. And this is a long process of trying to find and feel safety. It does not happen quickly. But if having the bed to yourself and maybe using melatonin or whatever your doctor helps you with is going to give you the ability to sleep, that is a fundamental priority for establishing safety and stabilization. Is starting to do your normal things like sleep, eat, function, like if you have children, being able to take care of your children or getting support to take care of your children. Those are the top priorities. Back to that 9/11 example, safety is like digging me out of the rubble, right? And putting an oxygen mask on. So eliminating all unnecessary activities, obligations, or duties, you are really in survival mode at that point in time. And the pain that will come in and out after discovery is kind of like having open heart surgery unanesthetized. So as you're wading through the muck and you're like going, wait, is this all? Is this just this tower that I'm buried under, or is there more collateral damage? It can feel worse before it gets better. And know that if you feel like you're losing your mind, you are not crazy. You are traumatized. Take things slow. Get the help that you need. Ask for what you need. Sometimes you're going to feel like maybe you want him close and you want a hug and reassurance. And other times you're like, get out of my face. And that back and forth can feel so disorienting. You might want to share this episode with your spouse if he's like, what is wrong with you? Because you're so up and down and all over the place. But doing the things that you need to do to reestablish the rhythms of sleep and nourishing yourself and basic daily care is one part of establishing a sense of safety. Asking your husband for what you need him to do, to dig into the roots, to get the truth of what his actual sexual history has been. Don't do that one-on-one with just him. Do it with a trained professional who knows about this problem, and give yourself the gift of some space if that feels safer. And then the other part of safety is more of an internal thing, is discovering how to regulate your own nervous system, learning that what is happening in your body is a threat response built in by God, where your amygdala, the primal part of your brain, is sending the signal, sounding the alarm to your whole body, danger, 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 I am not safe. That subsequently shuts down the frontal lobe, which is the part of the brain responsible for logic, impulse control. We have difficulty regulating our emotions. It's what makes us so erratic in this trauma response. And so learning how to regulate and shift into that rest and digest mode through things like deep breathing. Now, I know deep breathing is not going to help when you're buried under the rubble of the Twin Towers, but having people with you who know how to help you come out of the rubble and who can regulate their own nervous system and help you regulate yours is a part of creating that sense of internal safety. And prioritizing yourself and your own healing and well-being is akin to allowing the medical professionals to pull you out from the rubble, take you to the hospital, and get the support that you need. And that is not selfish. It's essential, and it's survival.
Mm-hmm. So you faced another discovery just before the holidays the following year. What do you remember about that season?
I remember a little bit more about it. At that point, I knew enough to know that, like, if I discovered pornography again, that it was kind of like the gateway drug to acting out with people again. And so when I had that discovery in late October, I really drew a firm line in the sand. And at that point, I was ready to say, I'm not willing to live like this. I wasn't okay with just a short-term separation. I knew we need to separate so that he can work on the root issues. And so I set really firm boundaries. We did not see each other at all for Thanksgiving that year. The holidays were somewhat of a blur as I got just really different advice from different people that didn't know what they were doing. I felt overwhelmed and afraid of my future. I had a 6-month-old baby. I am really glad, though, that I set and kept that boundary of a separation and asking for him to get the help that he needed. We did spend Christmas together that year, but I was really guarded and had to detach with love and like let go, because he was very inconsistent and erratic with his attitude towards me. And every time his attitude was blame shifting and like accusatory or resentful, I knew, okay, these attitudes are the opposite of broken, open, and willing, which is the attitude we see in men in good recovery. And I knew that these attitudes of contempt and resentment towards me are pointing to, this is not good recovery. And I cannot start to attach in this kind of a relationship. So I had to keep really good boundaries. I think that is really hard for women, especially during the holidays, because we have this longing and this desire for that idyllic family Christmas. But as early on as you realize what is happening, and that if your spouse is not in good recovery, having those boundaries are absolutely essential to feeling a level of safety and stabilization.
Yeah, and you mentioned the BOW acronym. Could you take a minute to just describe that a little bit more for our listeners?
Sure. So we teach women, look for attitudes of brokenness, openness, and willingness. So willing to get help, to do whatever it takes to change, to heal, to deal with the root issues of his unwanted sexual behavior. Broken is, instead of blaming you and resenting you, giving you the silent treatment, etc., he is broken for what he has done and the harm that it has caused. It doesn't necessarily mean tears, but an attitude of sorrow and contrition and owning it. Open is, he's not like icing you out or trying to be like, well, that's my personal private business and you can't see my phone. So open would be, you want to see my phone? I have nothing to hide. Go ahead. Here it is. I know you feel unsafe and I did that to you. I am so sorry. So those attitudes are kind of signposts, if you will, of good recovery.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think that's important. Just for those who have never heard that before. So, when it comes to the holidays, I know women often feel pressure to keep up appearances. You started alluding to this just a second ago, appearances for their family, friends, and kids during the holidays. How would you encourage listeners to handle that pressure of the holidays here?
Okay, so I know we have listeners with kids of various ages, and it's like, what do I say to people? I don't want to change anything because I want it to be magical for my kids, or I don't want my parents to know what we're going through. And so what I encourage you to do is to write down who are the people that you do want to know and who are the people that maybe would be better if they didn't know. And what I'm going to say is it's better to really have a small circle of people you're going to tell initially, and make a thoughtful decision about who you will and will not tell. Because depending on whether your marriage reconciles or not, it can create a lot of problems to tell the wrong people who end up giving you toxic and judgmental advice, who end up rejecting your spouse if in the end you're going to reconcile. So be careful about who you talk to about it initially. Get good support from people who understand unwanted sexual behavior and betrayal trauma, and make a thoughtful list of who you're going to tell what to. When it comes to your kids, I know it's going to vary based on their ages, but in general, once betrayal is exposed, your kids are going to know that something is wrong. In fact, they probably, if there was tension in your home before it erupted, before he disclosed or you discovered, the kids already know. And what I find interesting is a lot of moms' instinct is to say, I don't want my kids to know. I don't want to tell them. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to traumatize them. And it's like, well, if your kids already knows there's tension, there's stress and strife between mom and dad, there's something wrong. Isn't it more helpful for your child's intuition to be affirmed? Yes, you're right. There is something wrong, without giving them details. Now, sometimes if your child is the one who found your spouse's texting conversation with an acting out partner, being direct about what they saw and not sweeping it under the rug is essential. What I would encourage you to do is, for the exact verbiage of who to tell what to, seek good help. You can email us at support@living-truth.org and submit your questions for specifics. You can go to your therapist who's trained in betrayal trauma. Don't just try to do this by yourself, and don't get advice from anybody who's not trained in dealing with sexual betrayal. But in general, affirming to your kids something even generic, like if they're young and they don't know this about sex at all, let alone sexual betrayal, right? Saying something as simple, and ideally with your spouse, if you can do it together, like if Michael was the one who betrayed me, if he could say something as simple as, I did some things that really hurt mom. These are adult problems. We're getting help. We are dealing with it. It actually has nothing to do with you kids. You might notice that mom and I are sleeping in separate rooms, or we are having trouble in our relationship. It's not your responsibility to fix it, and it's not your fault. But I want to let you know that what you feel and sense is real. This is something that's happening. Contrary to popular belief, that's not going to ruin your child's childhood. It's actually going to tell them that their instinct, their intuition is spot on. But of course, kids are selfish fundamentally, right? Self-centered. We are self-centered. And so the kids are going to automatically think, I did something bad, and that's why. And so telling them something like that is really reassuring. Also, having a generic phrase that you can pull out of your back pocket for getting out of any traditional holiday plans is important. It could be as generic as, hey, we're going through some personal challenges that I'm not comfortable talking about, and we need to keep things simple this year, so I'm not going to be hosting Thanksgiving, or we will not be attending the New Year's Eve party. I appreciate you giving me the space and the freedom to pull out. Mm-hmm. It's really important to think about what you want to say instead of oversharing, because you can't unshare what you've already overshared. So I would strongly recommend that if you feel like you're in this drowning, buried under the Twin Towers phase, early safety stabilization phase, that you do not attempt to host large family gatherings at your home. If you're signed up to bring the mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving and you really just want to go to Thanksgiving, could you go buy some mashed potatoes that are already made instead of putting yourself through having to figure that all out? Now, maybe cooking is self-care to you and you enjoy it. So this is not a one-size-fits-all recommendation, but the less you have to obsess over decorating your house and doing all the things, having the perfect presents under the tree so that you can focus on your own recovery, your own oxygen mask, getting the help that you need, the better. Now, it's tempting for a lot of us to be like, oh my gosh, my life feels like such a crap show right now. I want to have the perfect presents wrapped under the tree because at least it's something that I can control. I know. I understand.
So there's nothing wrong with wanting to have some joy. But I think in general, what you're sharing is don't feel forced into all of the traditions that and all the expectations that other people have on you, right?
Yeah, keep things simple. Find the gift of being present with your children instead of like having to, your expenses are going to go up when you're in recovery. You have a lot of things that you need. It's like getting a hospital bill, right? It's expensive. So instead of prioritizing lots of fancy presents, the best gift that a mom and a dad can give their kids is a healed, as if we're ever finished this side of heaven, a more whole and present heart and body and mind. Getting the help that you need is a huge priority, and releasing the demand and the pressure for anything holiday related that doesn't actually also bring you joy is really important.
Yeah, and I think back to what you were talking about with the kids too. Well, a couple of things that came to mind, but just as we talk about the plans for the holidays, right?
Yeah.
That's another dimension of it. When you mentioned mom and dad are sleeping in a different room or whatever the case is, that's another opportunity just to talk through. Maybe it's a different meeting, maybe it's in the same, but letting them know, hey, we're not going to go to Aunt Marge this Christmas. We're going to stay home, and it's going to be different, but we're still going to have presents. We're still going to have some joy. So yeah, explaining to them the changes, the differences, and then opening it up for them to. I like having that context of an open conversation. Yeah. Like this conversation doesn't have to be over. If you have any feelings or questions about this, come to either one of us and talk to us about it.
Yes, that's really good.
So with the changes and all those things that they may have been looking forward to as well that need to change for the holidays, I think it's another opportunity to bring the kids in and having separate conversations with age-appropriate conversations. If you have teenagers and toddlers, different conversations, obviously, for different kids, but the changes, being flexible, and maybe it even requires backing out of something at the last minute because
absolutely.
I thought I could do this, but you know what?
How about
I need
I'm
a break.
not feeling well?
Yes,
I'm not feeling well.
That's true.
Could be a great out. And it's true. If you've gone through betrayal, you are not feeling well. And people can be intrusive and ask a bunch of questions. And it is okay to say, I really can't talk about it. I'm just not feeling well. Thank you for understanding. Goodbye.
Especially your mom. I mean, not your mom, but do you have a fever? Can I come over and bring you something? Do you need some soup?
Mom,
do you need some aspirin? Did you see a doctor?
Right.
Boundaries.
Right.
Boundaries.
Yes.
I'll tell you all about it when I feel better.
Yeah, except here's another thing. I have a lot of betrayed partners that are like, well, I feel like I'm keeping his secret. And what I'd like to say is there is a difference between privacy and secrecy.
Yes.
And so what I'm proposing is that you consider privacy as an issue, because some people, if you know a person is judgmental, they talk about other people behind their backs, they're critical, right? Or they just don't know how to respect your boundaries, they're not a good person to talk to about this very private issue. And people misunderstand it. And there are some betrayed partners who think they're going to end the relationship, and they end up reconciling because the husband gets into good recovery. And then everybody else can't unknow what they already know. Now, that being said, we're going to talk about isolation next. This is really important.
Yeah, the importance of safe connection.
Yeah.
So when you talk about what not to do, or maybe cancel, being flexible about holiday plans and all of that's, not engaging in the normal, whatever the normal is, which for a lot of families, it's like going to the holiday table, and seeing people and having conversations. I only do 4 times a year. It's not necessarily relationship, but betrayal can feel isolating
Yes.
too,
Yes.
So how did connection matter for you in those early holidays?
Yeah.
And how can women really find safe people to lean on?
I was really grateful that I did have good support from my mom and one of my brothers and my sister-in-law. I had some close friends who were really there for me. And then one of my close friends connected me with a woman in my area who had gone through betrayal. And that woman who had gone through betrayal, honestly, was the game-changing relationship for me in terms of right there, like in my life, she had been through this. She knew how to be there for me. And she was more objective than my close family and friends because we didn't have a relationship prior. And so let's face it, when I'm telling you, hey, don't tell all this private stuff to all the people in your life, and then I'm also saying, but don't isolate, that gets confusing.
Yeah.
Right? How do you do that? Who do you talk to? Well, I mean, for one thing, I'll tell you this. If you get my emails, like I do have a private Facebook group. It is free. It is only for betrayed partners. That is a place where you can even put in, hey, I live in Chicago, Illinois. Any other women from Chicago here? And you could actually literally find women in your area. So if you're not already on my email list, I would encourage you to click the link in the show notes, right, to get signed up, not only for my emails, but I'm going to run a free 5-day experience called Holiday Survival Strategies. This is a place to bust out of isolation and find safety and support. You'll be onboarded into our free Facebook group, and we'll drop an email, 5 emails, one each day with a short worksheet and a video digging into more aspects of how do you survive the holidays after betrayal. The whole experience is free. I will offer 2 live meetings over Zoom, and these are experiences where you will experience some connection in a safe environment with privacy and confidentiality, only with betrayed partners there. Finding safe people is essential, and you could have people in your physical area that are non-judgmental. They don't talk about other people behind their backs. They're present. They're supportive. They're not always trying to fix and solve and react and make it about them. Those kinds of safe people may be a place for you to talk to. And finding just even one friend who can be in this with you, even if they don't know what to say, all they really need to do is not be afraid of your pain and be present to you, can be huge. But there is something magical. It's not magical. It's part of the kingdom of God, and how God works is to put us together with other people who have been through similar trials so that they can comfort us in our suffering, right? And that is a lot of what Women in the Battle is. So, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you because you have a word for the husbands, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's certainly going to be some questions that I think you can also answer and talk to the husbands about. So, for a husband who's betrayed his wife, for those husbands who are listening right now, the idea is, what should he hear about supporting her during this painful season? And I'm going to ask you that question, but I'll start it out just by saying what I tell guys, this is especially essential in the beginning, is do whatever she needs you to do, whatever she asks for. And I say whatever, certainly if it sounds outrageous or whatever it is, don't say no. Don't let that be your default answer. But talk to your professional, talk to the guys in your circle, your group, your mentor, your pastor. Certainly someone who's qualified in this area, like a professional or a mentor from, guys that are in Men in the Battle, obviously. People who really understand betrayal trauma are essential. Those other people you could certainly talk to, but essential. Run it by them. If your affair partner was at work and she says, I want you to quit your job, don't say no.
That's a completely reasonable request.
But it can be a reasonable request. And maybe it's not practical to just, write your resignation and leave immediately unless you have enough funding to last you, 6 months to find. don't make no your default answer, but say, let me look into that, right? So let me see what that could look like. If she needs you to sleep on the couch or in the basement, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yes, I will do that, you know?
She asks you to leave the house.
If she asks you to take care of the kids, she needs to take a walk, or if she needs a day or even a night in a hotel room to get away, yes, let the answer be yes. What is it that's going to help her feel safe and stabilize, right? In this traumatized state. She's not crazy, right? She is responding to trauma. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a real thing, as if she were in a car accident, whatever it is. You don't know exactly what it's like to be her or to feel her, but to have some level of empathy. In other words, what if she did the things that you did, right? How would that feel? I mean, understand that whatever it is that she's going through, don't try not to be defensive, own it. So those are some things, when supporting her in this season. And then when it comes to the holidays, don't insist on things being the way that they were, but talk it through. I mean, if you have some things that you would like, you can certainly ask for that, but be sensitive. There's plenty of years ahead in the context of good, solid marriage. Your holidays in the future could be so much better.
Yeah.
Take the season off if you need to. It's 1 year of your life, right? So what do you want to add?
The only other thing I would say is do not be pressuring her for trusting you or for forgiveness or for maintaining the image. That is just not helpful. It's not. Friends, there's so much more we could say, and there's going to be a second part to this series about the holidays that we will bring to you very shortly for women who are maybe not in the initial stages of betrayal trauma recovery, but are in more advanced stages. Maybe you've known for a while and you're approaching the holidays and you're like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a great experience for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, we are holding out hope for you.